Okay, what we're going to take a look at now is implementing the unit of work. And what we'll do first of all, inside our API, we'll go to our interfaces and we're going to create a new interface, and it's going to be called our unit of work. And inside here, what we're going to do is we're going to specify that we want to return our repository. So we're going to say I user repository and call it user repository. And we're just going to add a get method inside here. And same for iMessage repository, we'll call it message repository. And once again, we'll use get. And then the iLikes repository, we'll say likes repository. And once again, we'll get. And then what we'll do, we'll add a task of a Boolean. And this is going to be our method to save all of our changes. So we're going to call it complete. And we'll also need to bring in system threading tasks as well. And we're going to add one more helper method, and it's just going to be a Boolean and says has changes. And what we'll use this one for to see if Entity Framework has been tracking or has any changes. We'll need to use that in one specific place. And what we'll do then is we'll go to our data folder and we'll create a new class and we'll call it unit of work. And inside here, let's just go ahead and say we want to use the unit of work interface, and we'll bring in using API interfaces, and let's go ahead and implement this. Now what we're going to be doing from our unit of work is creating instances of the repositories, and we're going to pass it what this would have in its constructor. So if we take a look at the user repository as an example, then the user repository has a constructor, and at the moment we're using dependency injection to get this. But what we're going to do is create these new instances of the repositories via our unit of work. So instead of using dependency injection here, we're going to remove these repositories from that, and we're going to be using the unit of work to create these instances. So what we'll do, we'll just go back to the unit of work, and what we'll do, instead of throw new system not implemented, we're going to say new, and in this case user repository, and what we need to pass this is an instance of the data context and the mapper. So what I'm going to do inside the unit of work, I'm just going to generate a constructor, and we'll say data context and call it context, and we'll also bring in iMapper and call it mapper, and we'll say using automapper, and we'll initialize the fields from parameters as well. And then we just need to pass the user repository, the context, and the mapper. And then we'll do the same for the message repository. We'll say new message repository, and this is going to take our context and the mapper as well. And then we'll do the same for our likes repository. And we'll say new likes repository, and we'll pass in the context. And I'm just going to double check that we don't have any more repositories before I go any further. And we've got user repository, message repository, and likes repository. So that's fine. Then we need to implement our complete method, and this is just going to be what we were doing inside our repositories. So all of the changes that Entity Framework has tracked, no matter which repository we used to do something, then we're going to be using this one to save all of our changes. So we'll say await context, and then we'll say save changes async, and we'll just make sure that we've had some changes saved, and we'll make this async. And the last one, the has changes, all we're going to do from this is we're going to return the context and the change tracker, and we're just going to see if it has changes. So anything Entity Framework is tracking, if it has something, then that will return true. What we'll do next, we'll go to our application service extensions, and we're not going to inject our iUser repository or any of the other repositories anymore. So we'll remove them, but we'll replace it with services and add scoped, and then we'll just say iUnit of work, and we'll say unit of work. So this is going to take care of our repositories. When we inject this into a controller, then it's going to have an instance of the data context. None of our repositories will. They're going to be using the data context that's injected into the unit of work. And that's the idea. We pass that same instance, the single instance, to each of our repositories. And what we'll also do, we'll go to each repository. So we'll start with the user repository, and we're going to remove the save all async method inside there. And we'll do the same with the implementation. So we'll open up the user repository, and we'll find our save changes in here, and we'll remove it. Obviously we're breaking our application at the moment, but that's fine. And then we'll go to the ilikes repository, which I don't believe we actually implemented that method anyway. We didn't. And then we'll go to our iMessage repository, where I'm pretty sure we did. So we'll also remove the save all async from here as well. And we'll go to the implementation of this, and we'll scroll down to find the save changes, and we'll remove that from there as well. So we've got some errors to fix, and what we'll do is we'll take a look at resolving and refactoring what we need to do in the next lesson.